The Chair.
This committee meeting is now resumed. Whip, have you all had a sight of the amendments? Check.
Ma'am, I think the Attorney General has circulated the proposed amendment. It should be on everyone's desk by now. So perhaps if you just give us a couple of seconds to take a quick look at it.
Thank you very much.
AG should be here shortly, but it's not a complicated proposed amendment. So I invite the members to take a quick look at it.
Might I ask in the meantime, member for point of appeal, would you be agreeable for us taking 1 to 3 en bloc? Okay, so as soon as the Attorney General joins us. Okay, Attorney General, we have the concurrence of the whip to take clauses 1 to 3 en bloc.
Should it please you, Madam Chair?
Clauses 1 to 3.
The question is that clauses 1 to 3 stand part of the bill. The question is that clauses 1 to 3 now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Clauses 1 to 3 now stand part of the bill.
Clause 4.
The question is that clause 4 stand part of the bill. Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, in looking over, first of all, may I thank the Honourable House for the small indulgence of allowing these amendments to be circulated. Clause 4, Madam Chair, we propose be amended to allow us in the Insurance Act number 4 of 2018 in paragraphs B, E, and F to cause certain amendments. The first one at paragraph B is where we propose that we delete the word financing and replace with the words financing or. That, Madam Chair, is to be found at B34(1)(c). Right. So that would allow us, Madam Chair, to just have the benefit of including simply in subparagraph B as it appears on page 6, section 34(1)(c), we are adding in effectively terrorist financing or proliferation of financing. As we had it there, we didn't have the disjunctive or. We had, in fact, had a comma only. It appears to be minor, but it's actually quite significant to allow us the difference between cumulative or disjunctive association. Madam Chair, we propose in paragraph E, Roman 1, that appears at page 7 of the bill, after the word act, as it appears in Roman 1 at the second line, we propose that we actually add in effectively and any other regulation made thereunder. That would allow us, Madam Chair, to have both the primary and the subsidiary legislation coordinating together so that we can take effect of the positions. Similarly, Madam Chair, you will see that there is also to be a further insertion of words after Anti-Terrorism Act, as it appears in the 4th line of that same E, Roman 1, and that we would be adding the words "and regulations made thereunder." This is to allow us to have both primary and secondary legislation operate with effect in section 136.3. Madam Chair, the last amendment is where we treat in paragraph F, Roman 1. We are proposing 2 amendments which are exactly in keeping with what we've done at what is listed at B above in this circulated amendment. We're adding in "Act and any regulations made thereunder" in the locations just after Anti-Terrorism Act. Firstly, at the end of the word "act" in the second line, and at the end of the word "act" in the fourth line. This would allow us to catch both the primary obligations under the Anti-Terrorism Act and the regulations which stand as subsidiary legislation there. This is to make sure that all aspects fall within purview and compliance, and that would, of course, be an amendment to section 147(8) of the Insurance Act. Madam Chair, the rationale is as stated, the draft is as circulated, and we believe that, unless there are any questions coming from honourable members, we believe that it's fairly straightforward.
Member for Caroni East.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the Attorney General. In your attempt to make subsidiary legislation by the introduction of any regulations made thereunder, in all 4 of these areas that you just mentioned, we didn't have any discussions on the aspect of the making of regulations. So this is something new in the introduction of the entire bill, and you're bringing a new aspect of it, a subsidiary legislation by introduction of any regulations made thereunder. And then to even further qualify that, most regulations will have by either affirmative or negative resolution of Parliament. And you will probably have to indicate to this House what are your intentions on that as well.
Sure. Madam Chair, if I could explain, there are a number of sources of law that provide comfort to my learned friend's inquiries. Effectively, as I understand my friend's argument, he's looking at the concern of whether we are putting into parent law something which is a springboard to something which we don't know, if I could just rephrase it.
Sure.
But the comfort is to be found firstly by the Interpretation Act and then by the parent acts themselves. So the Interpretation Act provides one aspect of how primary and subsidiary laws operate. They both bind us. The parent acts are where we get the legislative springboard to do the subsidiary legislation. So in the Insurance Act, there are regulations that can come, but what we're referring to here now are the regulations under the Anti-Terrorism Act, the Economic Sanctions Act, the Proceeds of Crime Act. All of these parent laws have the ability of Parliament to make regulations. All of those regulations are, as I remember them, subject to negative resolution. So the regulations can be made, promulgated. It would be up to members to seek to negative the regulations within the 42-day period that is provided. That's not an actual calendar day reference. That's actually a Parliament sitting schedule reference. So there's nothing untoward inside of here because we draw the source of authority from the parent acts themselves, which permit this legislative power.
So number 4 is the Insurance Act.
Yes.
And the Insurance Act would already have regulations governing it.
Yes.
So you want the ability to introduce,
I know.
you
Yes.
want the ability to introduce new regulations in addition to what you have there already that will suit the proliferation financing aspect?
So
Could
what
you
we're,
explain?
sorry to interrupt. So,
Yeah,
so
go
what we're doing, we're ensuring right now that the supervisors check for an obligation amongst people that they supervise who have to comply with the laws anyway. So what we're doing right now in prescriptive form, because we hold the view that subsidiary law is under primary law and we didn't need to make a reference to it. Our international assessors and people that use what we call plain and ordinary English language type of law drafting, the civil law jurisdictions like to see things prescriptively. They want you to say X, Y, Z, P, Q, R. Whereas we could say X and any other written law, which means P, Q, R would be enveloped in that. So number one, we're dealing with two different types of systems of law for assessment. We think that we've already caught that mischief by saying any other type of law. But these listed persons, these non-designated banking or financial institutions, these financial institutions, they're all regulated already. They all have to comply with the Anti-Terrorism Act, the Proceeds of Crime Act, some of them with the Financial Intelligence Unit Act. And all of those pieces of law, the Financial Institutions Act, all of them already provide for regulations to be observed. So what we're doing, for instance, in this 147, what we're doing is we're providing for an audit of returns. And we're saying that the auditor of an insurer or a financial holding company shall ensure compliance, monitor and evaluate compliance with Proceeds of Crime Act, Anti-Terrorism Act, and any regulations made thereunder. What we didn't have was the Economic Sanctions Act and regulations made thereunder. We also had there any guidelines on money laundering, combating terrorism, issued by central bank, and we also had the ability to put them on the guidelines. So we're not introducing a requirement that they didn't already have. What we're doing is we're telling the auditor, monitor and check that one in an express way.
Through you, Madam Chair, crave your indulgence. You just mentioned the issue of guidelines. Guidelines and regulations are two different issues.
Yes.
Guidelines are not, you're not circumscribed to accepting the guidelines or so.
Yes.
But the regulations are more legal. Now, who are going to make these regulations?
Regulations are made effectively by a minister with responsibility for law. So under the Proceeds of Crime Act, it's the Ministry of National Security. Under the Financial Institutions Act, it's the Minister of Finance. Under the Anti-Terrorism Act, there are two forms of regulations, one by the Attorney General and the other by the Minister of National Security. So ministers make these regulations. They are either subject to negative or affirmative resolution. The legislative springboard to do that is in the Parent Act, where all laws of this type say that the minister may have power to promulgate regulations of this type. It's subsidiary legislation. Statutory instruments can also be included in that, meaning orders, etc. Guidelines also are subsidiary in nature. So the power comes from the parent law, where that express authority to make regulations are there. The power to make regulations are and have been a feature of the law in these laws for a very long time. In the 1990s, we did the Economic Sanctions Act. In 2010, we did the Anti-Terrorism Act. In 2009, we did the Financial Intelligence Unit Act. In 2018, Act number 4, we did the Insurance Act. So we did all of these things, and we've anchored it into law already.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The question is that Clause 4 be amended as circulated. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The question is that Clause 4 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Honorable members, the question is the bill as amended be now reported to the House. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. This committee meeting is now adjourned. The House will resume. General.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 68-1, forgive me, there's so many procedures before us. Madam Speaker, I wish to report that the Miscellaneous Provisions, Financial Institutions, Securities and Insurance Bill 2019 was considered in Committee of the Whole and approved with amendments. I now beg to move that the House agree with the committee's report.
Honorable members, the question is that this House agree with the committee's report on the Miscellaneous Provisions, Financial Institutions, Securities and Insurance Bill 2019. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. The Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Financial Institutions Act, Chapter 7909, the Securities Act, Chapter 8302, and the Insurance Act, Number 4 of 2018, be forthwith read a third time and passed.
Honorable members, the question is that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Financial Institutions Act, Chapter 7909, the Securities Act, Chapter 8302, and the Insurance Act, Number 4 of 2018, be forthwith read a third time and passed. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Financial Institutions Act, Chapter 7909, the Securities Act, Chapter 8302, and the Insurance Act, Number 4 of 2018.
Leader of the House.
Very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, is it all right if I address you from this seat, or would you prefer me here?
General would be swift enough to vacate and allow you to come.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do now adjourn to Friday, the 14th day of June at 10 a.m., at which time we will do the miscellaneous provisions, tax amnesty, pensions, freedom of information, national insurance, central bank, and non-profit organizations Bill 2019. Madam, before you rise, I'd like to indicate that we do have amendments to this bill, which we will circulate immediately, and that will be done at the adjournment. But Madam Speaker, that is the adjournment. I beg to move.
Whip, is a matter on the adjournment. Is that going to be done?
I know we adjourned to Friday. I'm just inquiring if Friday would now be Prime Minister's question day.
I think that was made abundantly clear when that issue came up. It was made abundantly clear by the chair. Honorable members, there's one matter that qualifies to be raised on the motion for the adjournment of the House. I now call upon the member for point of order.
No problem. Sorry about that. Speaker, Madam Chair, we had an agreement. Huh? I'm ready.
If you want to leave it till next week Friday, that's up to you.
I'll do it. You okay? An agreement between myself and the Minister Young to defer this motion to Friday sitting. Is that okay?
Did you agree with that? I have clarified and he has agreed.
That was my initial question to point of order. That was my initial question. No, but it's because that you were directing a challenge to me that you didn't hear. Okay, so, honorable members, the question is that this House now do adjourn to Friday, the 14th day of June, 2019 at 10 a.m. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to Friday, the 14th of June, 2019 at 10 a.m.